There's an overwhelming amount of financial advice in the news and on social media. Who do you listen to? Are they looking out for what's best for you? How do you tune out the noise? In this podcast, trusted advisors Emily Agosto, CPA, and Amanda Vaught, JD, bring their extensive education and experience to delve into all aspects of personal finance. Emily and Amanda make topics like investing, taxes, and financial planning interesting and accessible. And they provide a framework to help you think through the plethora of financial advice and news out there. Are you ready to start making the best personal financial decisions for you? Welcome to Connecting the Dollars with Propel Financial Advisors.
Hello, Amanda.
Hey, Emily. Good to see you.
You too. Welcome back from your trip.
Okay, thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah, Amanda was recently out west visiting some family in Oregon.
In Oregon, yes. I brought back this Oregon State University water cup. Go Beavs.
It looks like a good one.
My niece, my oldest niece is starting college there this fall. I'm very proud of her and excited for her. So picked up a little souvenir for support. Yeah.
That's super exciting for her.
Yeah.
So speaking of vacations, I'm sure everyone's been seeing, so since it's summer right now, we're recording on July 12th. I've been getting some FOMO and jealousy looking through Instagram and seeing everyone's amazing trips. I don't tend to travel in the summer. We're off-season travelers, so don't feel too bad for me. But yeah, have you been seeing that as well?
Yeah, I saw pictures from Switzerland, England, Italy, just beautiful. Yeah. Portland is scenic too, but not like not like the Swiss Alps, right?
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that kind of brings us into, if we're talking about going to international destinations for vacation, maybe you should also be thinking about investing internationally. And before we get into that, though, today's episode is going to just kind of be a combination of some current events. So we will talk about international investing, the Fed a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up with student loan debt and a success story for someone who followed some of our personal finance advice. But let's get back into international investing. If you want to take it away.
Yeah, well, I think international investing, we're calling it sort of a current event, but it's always something that we use in our client portfolios, so we get access and diversity to international markets. A lot of people tend to have a domestic bias when it comes to investing, and we do see people, who have 100% of their portfolio in the U.S. stock market. But when you do that, you're really missing out on a broader world of companies and investment opportunities and a diversification. So there's always good reasons to be investing internationally. I think our colleague Danielle Woods recently wrote up a blog post that got into some more details and some more numbers and good reasons for doing this in general. But I think, one of the reasons we're including it in like a current events story is that international markets right now are outperforming domestic markets, and they have been for the past 18 months. This is significant because usually, well, not usually, but for the past 15 years or so, the U.S. domestic markets have been outperforming international. So it's been usually, you see an up and down, back and forth between the two. And it's just been a while since we've had the back and forth. And the moment for international investments seems, like it's arrived. And we'll see how long it continues for.
Yeah, that is definitely true. So for some people, like myself included, my time horizon that I've been investing, it's always been that the domestic market has outperformed international. So a whole, generation of people has never even really considered like, why would we invest in international if it's not performing as well as what we know here domestically?
Yeah.
But also, speaking of like what we know, a lot of people are more comfortable investing in companies that they've heard of, maybe that they even, purchase on their own. But there are several international companies that you would know as well. Um, what are some of those, Amanda, that come to mind?
Oh, well, I think it's a lot of consumer products you see all the time. I think like Louis Vuitton is the biggest company in France. I mean, I feel like everybody has heard of them. Probably some people haven't, but that's huge. And yes, that's a French company, but they sell their products worldwide. So if you think, oh, maybe I don't want to invest in Europe, I don't know what's going on with Russia, I don't know how the economy is doing there. Well, yeah, okay, that's
Fair.
true, but also, yeah, fair enough, but also they're not just selling their handbags in France, right? They're selling them in the United States, they're selling them in China, they're selling them worldwide.
Mhm.
So just because the company is located in France, doesn't mean they're only selling it in France. We're in, a global economy, right? So that's one that comes to mind. As a European company, obviously, Japan, there's tons of companies out of Japan, from
Mhm.
Sony to Nintendo, that we all use like in our everyday lives. Um, I'm trying to think of something from, there's
Yeah,
countless things you can name. So,
yeah. You had mentioned Nestle when
oh,
we were talking the
Nestle,
other
yes,
day. Yeah.
Nestle, is a big one. Trying to think what Nestle products I use at home. I mean, we do a lot of hot chocolate in our house because we have kids, but
I always have like the Nestle Toll House cookie, everything like ready to make those. So
oh
like the
yeah,
chocolate chips, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
just in
exactly.
case.
They have a lot of chocolate products, yeah. But they have other stuff too, like coffee.
Hmm.
So, just like a ton of things, that you use day to day, and you think, oh, international investments, that's something far away. That's like the Swiss Alps, but no, we're talking about, major companies. And there's also, small companies out there too, and there's good reasons to invest in small and mid cap international companies as well that you might not have heard of. As much as like a Louis Vuitton or Nestle, but those are all can be worthwhile investments in an investment portfolio as well.
Yes, absolutely. So we will link that blog post in the show notes at connectingthedollars.com. And hopefully you'll take a look and maybe consider some investments that you may not have in the past. But bringing it back to the US here, what is going on with the Fed right now? I know we're kind of in the middle, like there was a meeting a few weeks ago and there's another meeting 3 weeks from now. So we're kind of just
Waiting,
waiting.
paused.
We're paused.
We're having our hawkish pause
A
right now.
hawkish pause.
Yes.
I don't know why that phrase is
I
just
think
so.
it's I don't know. It reminds me of the Saturday Night Live skit where they have the sweaty balls thing. Hawkish pause. It
Hawkish
sort of
pause.
like rhymes. I don't know.
It's just like satisfying to say. And it
Yeah.
also is like, what does it mean?
Yeah, and it's sort of, yeah, it's fun to say.
So what does it mean, actually?
So I think it's the Fed, right, lately has been hiking interest rates very quickly in an unprecedentedly fast way. I think we've covered that plenty on this podcast, or hopefully
Yes.
people have seen that on the news. And the question has always been, well, when are they going to stop raising rates? Because it's a lot for people to absorb and for the economy to absorb, and how much of that hike, what's the effect? It takes time for that to play out. And because they have been raising rates so quickly, it's like, have we seen the impact really of that hike yet?
Mhm.
um I think, we started to see it a little in March with the regional bank. A couple of banks collapsed. And people thought, well, the Fed's going to raise rates until they break something. Was that it? was that the broken thing. But since March, it seems like for the most part, the banking sector, is under some strain, but, we haven't seen any more bank collapses. So it seems okay for now. And so,
We're just kind of waiting. It's like a
we're
little
just
bit of
kind
a
of waiting. Yeah. So
weird.
yeah, so the Fed, right? So then we go back to the Fed has a dual mandate, right? To both maximize employment and to keep inflation down. And inflation has been dropping. We've gotten some good numbers back, but it's still higher than they want it to be, right? But the labor force has been really resilient. I think the layoff numbers have been going up. But also people have been finding new jobs.
Mhm.
So people are going on the unemployment, but they're not staying on it for very long.
Right.
At least in my like personal circle of people I know who've been laid off recently, that's what I've seen as well. Like
Yeah,
it's been sort of a short layoff period, which is great. And it's can be really stressful to be laid off, right? So I'm really happy that the people I know are able to get back to work.
absolutely.
But yeah, so I'm going off track a little bit, but the hawkish part is the Fed wants to stay hawkish because they want to keep fighting inflation. They don't want people to think the inflation fight is over. But also the pause part is from taking a break and letting, the lagging indicators sort of catch up
Mhm.
to see how these rate hikes have really impacted our economy.
Okay, interesting.
Do you
Yeah,
think that was a good explanation, Emily?
I was trying to think of what the opposite of a hawkish pause was. I got a little distracted in my own mind,
mm.
like a squirrelish play.
Oh, yeah, I don't
Sorry,
know. That's a good
sorry.
question.
Let's move on.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
should
it's
though.
my
We should
brain.
ask people to chime in on that one in the
Yeah,
comments or on I don't think on the podcast page there's a way to comment, but you can send an email.
yeah. What's the opposite of a hawkish pause?
Yes, tell
I'd
us.
love to know.
Mhm.
So with all this going on, how does it affect how you might invest or how investors are looking at choosing new investments or like their strategies currently?
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes to play in the bond market. Well, I mean the stock market as well, but I think the moves from the Fed obviously is impacting rates, which impacts what bonds are paying. And as rates go up, the price of bonds go down. And so, we just go back to the phrase, you can't fight the Fed. The Fed's going to do what the Fed's going to do. And we can't control that. So what can we do? Um, so probably, the chances are, we can't predict the future, so you have to hedge it a little bit
Mhm.
also. But you think, okay, the Fed can't keep raising rates forever. Right now, the outlook is that they're going to do another 50 basis points or 0.5% this year. So a lot of predictions are 25 basis points at the next meeting, and then another 25 basis points increase later in the year. Um, and then at that point, they will pause completely. And then at some point, they're going to have to cut rates again, right?
Mhm.
And when that's going to happen, maybe later this year, maybe into 2024. But we do know that chances are they probably are going to cut rates at some point
Right.
within the next year. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
We don't know.
that's what people are saying, but we
But
don't know
yeah,
what's going to happen.
exactly. So, but when the rates go down, bond prices are going to go up.
Right.
And and that impact is greater the longer your bond m- duration is, right? So the length of time. So if you issue a bond today and it matures 5 years from now, the duration would be 5 years. So the longer your duration, the bigger that impact is. So if you're out on like a 20-year bond, the rate goes down, the price goes up, that's amplified the further out your duration is.
Right.
So, we're thinking things like, is it time to extend duration so that we can capture that big impact for when rates are cut? we can see those prices go up on our bonds.
Yeah.
Those types of things.
Yeah, so it's still like a very long-term view, and nothing, whatever the Fed is saying right now is not like completely changing a strategy and being like, oh, now we have to switch all this, to that, to, it's not huge changes, but yeah, definitely, there's little tweaks you can make. And so talk to us if you're interested in
Yeah,
aligning your portfolio.
it does get portfolios do get complicated,
Mhm.
especially like us. We don't just buy the bond index and let it ride. We,
Mhm.
actively manage our bond portfolios. And so, what works for one person is obviously different than what works for another person. And
Right.
it depends on your time horizon and if you can absorb, the potential for your bond portfolio to go down, or if you can't. There's lots of different
Yeah.
considerations, but in general, worth looking at extending duration out. So
Okay.
uh,
Awesome. Okay, so let's jump over to our last two subjects and wrap up here.
yeah,
Um, did you have anything else to go
I
on
feel
with
like I
the
talked
bonds?
about like the Fed and the bond market like way too long, and we probably lost like everybody, but
Well, now we're back.
yeah,
Hopefully
it's just
everyone made
so,
it
I
through.
think it's so interesting, but I
It
know it can
is.
get dry. Yeah, so
Yeah, it's hard to understand it, but if you take the time,
yeah.
it is interesting. It's an
And
interesting strategy.
I know we're talking about student loan payments next,
Mhm.
and that's you know, that's that's a tough thing with debt, with the Fed's rates being elevated. The interest rates you're paying on your student loans, if you don't have a rate locked in, or your credit card,
Mhm.
is tough,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So
And if you are someone who has a student loan and you haven't had to pay it in the last couple years, you've probably heard or read about the payment coming back this fall. So the Biden administration recently, or somewhat recently, had announced that they were going to do their student loan forgiveness program, but the Supreme Court just, was it last week, struck down and saying it was, I don't know, he made a unilateral decision and it wasn't cool. So
that's a good
unfortunately,
analysis, Emily.
yeah, I read the article and I don't know, I just
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
change it to my everyday speak.
Mhm.
So basically, the interest is going to start accruing September 1st of 2023, and then the payment is going to be due October 1st. And there's also a year grace period they're giving people currently. Or is this in the new
And the new,
potential?
with the resumption of payments, there's
Right,
the interest is going to start accruing, but if you miss a payment, it's not going to impact your credit and it won't send you into default.
right.
So
That was it.
it's a kind of transitionary grace period, I guess.
Right.
Call it.
So yeah, with if nothing else gets passed, that's what's going to happen. But allegedly, the Biden administration is trying to work on a new, um, something new, a new
Yeah, like
bill
a
for
new
this,
debt
a
cancellation.
new debt cancellation program. So hopefully, for those with student debt that were hoping it was going to be forgiven, hopefully it still will affect you. But unfortunately, in the financial world, sometimes you just have to be conservative and plan for the worst.
Mhm.
So if you can right now, I mean, it's July, so that's mid-July, July, August, September. So you've got like about 3 months to prepare if your student loan payment is coming back. So maybe it would be a good time to take a look at your budget, see how that would affect you. Are there some small things you can cut to help make that repayment not as significant? Because you haven't had to pay in what, like 3 years now? Something like that.
Yeah, and you can get
So
used to it.
you can really get used to it. Yeah. And
I'm speaking as someone who's going to have to start repaying my student loans here very soon. So I'm
yeah,
definitely
you
not used to it.
get
So
used to having that extra, couple $100 or maybe even more in your pocket. Like it's hard to cut that back.
yeah.
Um, and on that note, our last thing we wanted to talk about is actually a success story. So we'll leave on a positive note. This is someone I know personally, and a few years ago, she was just like there's nothing I can do. I have this debt and I'm drowning and I'm just making minimum payments. And like, I feel like I've cut everything. I don't see where I can even start. And she was very stressed out. She is very hardworking, has a good full-time job, and also has a side job. So it's not like she's trying, she's working her butt off, and she has two
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
So just kind of little by little, I would say, I'm her friend. I wasn't trying to be her financial advisor, but I would just try to encourage her and say, maybe call this credit card company, ask if they can lower your rate because you are paying the minimum payments. They see that you're, consistent, but you can't get ahead. So this was this was like 2 years ago, I think. So over the past, 2 years, every now and then we would talk a little bit about it, and I'd say like, oh, I just learned about this, like maybe that will help. And just yesterday, I saw her and she was like, I'm so excited. I just paid off one whole credit card. I'm finally
Oh,
saving. I went through my whole budget and canceled, two subscriptions that I realized I wasn't using. And she was just so excited and so different from where she was 2 years ago. And
I believe it.
it
Yeah.
takes so much time,
Yeah, yeah.
it's kind of awful, but then it takes so much time. Like we want things to be fixed right away. Um, I think in every aspect of our lives, but you just
That's
have
true, right?
to, yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to start somewhere.
Mhm.
Um, and just make these little tweaks. And yeah, so she's a lot happier. I think she did get into some program through one of her credit cards that allows you um, to have a lower rate for a certain period of time, and was able to consolidate a few credit cards. So yeah,
Mhm.
I didn't know all these things existed. So you can just ask. It doesn't hurt to call and ask if you have, you know,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
couple of minutes.
It's true. I think that there's something to it. It's not just a number issue.
Mhm.
I mean, it is a number issue, but it's like a psychological.
Yeah.
It's like in our society, debt is like a moral failing almost, and it
Mhm.
contribute to those really like bad feelings. Like people feel bad about themselves for
Yeah.
having this debt, and then
Yeah.
they get overwhelmed and it just becomes difficult to deal with.
Mhm.
Um and
You're
it
like, I did this to myself.
yeah, it's really hard. And so
Mm.
just that, taking that first step and dealing with it can be really difficult for people, and then once you're on the other side, you're just like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this sooner? Um, but then you can't beat yourself up for that either,
Right. And
every
just
day's
know
not your best. You
it's
just gotta
gonna
start.
take some time. Yeah.
Mhm,
Just start somewhere and
yeah,
think of yourself in a year from now, or even 6 months, like this is gonna be so much lower, and I don't know, just
yeah,
anything that helps you kind of visualize
yeah.
being where you
And
want to be.
probably her stress level is probably so much better, right? Yeah.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah. And that
Mhm.
can help in all aspects of your life, like just your mental health, your physical health, like
Definitely.
a functional parent for your kids,
Yeah.
That's just, it's good
Mhm.
all around. So
Yeah. So if you
so
feel
happy
like,
to be a friend.
yeah, if you feel like, you can't get ahead and it's just like you're never going to be able to overcome something, just, yeah, I don't know, start with a quick call or,
Yeah, ask for help if you need
yeah,
it.
exactly.
Okay. Yeah, it's not easy.
Okay.
Okay. So did we end on a happy note?
I hope so. It was
Yeah.
a
Okay.
success story. And I'm taking no credit. It's just like I wanted to share her journey. Like that's
Yeah.
all. She did it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's end there. And
Okay.
any final thoughts, or should we just move along?
Yeah, I think we could do a deeper dive on international investing sometime. If you would like to hear that, let us know.
Mhm.
Um, we like to give our audience what they want. So
Yes. And you can find everything at connectingthedollars.com. Email us questions. We'll be here.
okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
That will do it for this episode of Connecting the Dollars. Nothing discussed in this episode should be considered legal, financial, or tax advice. If you like what you heard, please subscribe for more at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your content. When you do, please give us a rating and a review. To see the links we mentioned in our show, along with other great Propel Financial Advisors content, go to connectingthedollars.com. You can find our past episodes there and subscribe to our newsletter. And if you're still here because you have a general question, you can email us directly at info@connectingthedollars.com. Or, if you're interested in working with us, click the Schedule a Consultation button on our website. Thank you for listening.